The airport pulses with early morning urgency travelers weaving through lines, announcements echoing overhead, and the metallic scent of coffee drifting through the air. Ava Sinclair stands in the check-in queue, her posture composed pilot's, jacket folded neatly over her arm. She clutches her first-class ticket, its edges pressing into her palm as if to remind her she belongs here. The fluorescent lights overhead cast a harsh glow, making the gold stripes on her sleeve gleam all the brighter. Every so often, she catches a curious glance from another passenger. But she keeps her chin lifted, gaze steady. Renee Halverson, the senior flight attendant, watches from behind the counter, her expression unreadable at first as Ava approaches. Renee's features harden, her lips drawing into a thin line. Her eyes flick from Ava's natural hair to her youthful face, then down to the ticket in her hand. Renee's fingers tap rhythmically on the counter, each tap a silent challenge. The security camera perched above them blinks, its red light pulsing a silent observer to the unfolding scene. Behind the counter, the airline's Diversity in the Skies poster hangs crooked, its smiling faces a stark contrast to the tension at the counter. Ava steps forward, offering her ticket with a polite nod. Renee's smile is tight, her voice syrupy as she asks, "Good morning, destination today?" The words hang in the air, too sweet to be genuine. Ava answers calmly, "New York, flight 27. She slides the ticket across the counter, her movements measured, refusing to let her nerves show. Renee examines the ticket, her eyes narrowing as she scrutinizes the details. She hesitates, holding the ticket a moment longer than necessary, as if expecting it to reveal a secret. A toddler nearby tugs at his mother's sleeve, pointing at Ava's jacket. "Mommy, she's a pilot," he says, voice bright with wonder. The mother quickly hushed him, glancing nervously at Renee before steering him away, the businessman behind Ava sighs, shifting his briefcase impatiently. But the world seems to shrink to the space between Ava and Renee. Renee finally stamps the ticket, her smile never reaching her eyes. "Enjoy your flight, ma'am," she says, the last word laced with something sharp. Ava tucks the ticket into her jacket, her own smile small and controlled. "I always do," she replies quietly, turning away with a purposeful stride. Renee watches her go, fingers drumming the counter once more. The camera lingers on Ava's reflection in the glass doors, steady, unbroken, and quietly defiant. The morning rush continues, but something in the air has shifted, as if the airport itself is holding its breath, waiting for what comes next. Before the story continues, please let us know from where you are watching this video. Write your city or country in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe and hit like if you believe in stories that challenge injustice. Your engagement gives power to voices that need to be heard. Ava approaches the next checkpoint, her steps measured, the ticket still warm in her hand. The counter is spotless, every edge gleaming under the relentless lights. Renee stands ready, posture rigid, her eyes scanning Ava with a look that tries to mask suspicion with courtesy. She plasters on a smile, but it's brittle, the kind that cracks if you look too closely. "Just need to check your ticket again," Renee says, her tone syrupy but edged with something cold. Ava offers the ticket without hesitation, her fingers steady. Renee flips it over, examining every detail as if she expects it to dissolve in her hands. The pause stretches, drawing the attention of those nearby. A couple in line exchange glances, sensing the tension but saying nothing. Ava stands tall, her pilot's jacket draped over one arm, her credentials still tucked away and necessary, but ready if called for. She keeps her gaze level, refusing to shrink under the scrutiny. Renee's pen hovers, then circles Ava's seat. "Number first class," she says, almost to herself, as if the words are hard to swallow. She glances at Ava, then at the gold stripes on her sleeve. "These seats are reserved for our most valued passengers," Renee continues, voice soft but heavy with implication. Ava doesn't flinch. "Would you like to see my credentials?" she asks, her tone even, offering the question as a courtesy, not a concession. The moment hangs, thick with unspoken challenge. Renee's smile falters, just for a second, before she regains her composure. She stamps the ticket, the sound sharp and final. "Enjoy your flight," she says, her voice tight. Ava nods, her own smile small and controlled. "Thank you," she replies, turning away, her dignity intact. As Ava moves toward security, Renee's hand trembles slightly, her pen rolling off the counter and onto the floor. The people in line shift, the tension dissipating as quickly as it came. Ava's stride is unbroken, her presence leaving a mark that lingers long after she's gone. The ticket, once a point of contention, is now a silent testament to a battle quietly won. The check-in counter is bathed in harsh fluorescent light, the polished surface reflecting the tension between Ava and Renee. Ava's pilot stripes catch the glare, sharp and undeniable. While Renee's attendant uniform remains pristine but rigid, her posture stiff with unspoken judgment. The space between them feels like a chasm, a silent battlefield where authority and doubt clash. Ava's ID badge peeks from beneath her jacket, untouched by Renee's gaze. The flight attendant's eyes flicker briefly to the badge, but quickly dart away, unwilling to acknowledge the symbol of Ava's rightful place. Nearby, a child tugs at his mother's sleeve, whispering with wide eyes, "Mommy, she's a pilot." The mother hushes him, her glance nervous as if the truth unsettles the air. Renee's lips press into a thin line, her voice low and measured. "It's easy to mistake uniforms, isn't it?" she says. The words laced with a subtle edge. Ava meets her gaze steadily, unflinching. The counter feels colder, the hum of the airport fading into a quiet tension that wraps around them like a shroud dot behind them. The airline's diversity poster hangs slightly askew, the smiling faces of pilots and crew now seeming distant and hollow. The polished floor reflects the Cena tableau of power, prejudice, and resilience. Ava's fingers tighten around her bag strap, her breath steady. She doesn't need to speak. Her presence says enough. Renee's eyes flicker with a mix of frustration and reluctant acknowledgement, the silent admission of a battle lost before words are exchanged. The line behind Ava shifts, the murmurs of travelers blending into the background. The moment stretches, heavy and charged, before Ava steps forward, her stride confident, her dignity intact. Her calm strength radiates through the crowd as she moves forward with quiet resolve. The clash of uniforms is more than fabric, and badges hits the collision of old assumptions and new realities. The silent demand for recognition that cannot be denied. As Ava walks away, the weight of her presence lingers. A reminder that respect is not a costume, but a right earned and owned. The hum of the airport seems to fade as Renee's finger hovers over the intercom, her confidence faltering for the first time. The line behind Ava grows tense, travelers shifting, their conversations dropping to a hush as they sense something is off. Ava stands motionless, her jaw set, posture unwavering in the face of mounting scrutiny. Each second stretches the air, thick with anticipation and the weight of unspoken questions. "I'll need a supervisor," Renee finally says, her voice clipped, but betraying a flicker of uncertainty. The words hang in the air, a summons that signals a shift in the balance of power. Some travelers sigh, others exchange glances, curiosity and discomfort mingling in their eyes. The atmosphere tightens, charged with expectation. Moments later, the supervisor arrives, his badge swinging from a chain, his steps brisk and practiced. He barely glances at Ava, his attention fixed on the ticket in Renee's hand. His review is cursory, his demeanor dismissive, a silent echo of the doubt that has shadowed Ava's journey. Ava meets his gaze directly, her calm a stark contrast to the flicker of discomfort in his eyes. The security camera above pulses red, capturing every measured breath, every subtle shift in the room's energy. Behind the counter, a janitor pauses, mop in hand, watching with a knowing look. His presence is quiet, but significant as silent, witness to the ritual of suspicion that plays out day after day. Renee's fingers tap the counter, her earlier certainty slipping away. The supervisor's eyes narrow as he scans the ticket again, but the hesitation is clear. Ava's phone vibrates softly, a message from her co-pilot, "Ready when you are." She tucks it away, her expression unreadable but resolute. The line remains frozen, the moment stretched thin, a fragile pause before the next move. In this small theater of doubt, power shifts quietly, but Ava's quiet strength does not waver. The supervisor finally nods, stepping back, his verdict unspoken. But understood, Renee exhales, the tension easing, but the undercurrent of bias lingers, heavy as ever. Ava straightens, ready to move forward, her dignity untouched. Her resolve unbroken. Ava's phone buzzes quietly in her pocket, the screen lighting up with a message from her co-pilot. "They ready for us?" She doesn't reach for it, her attention fixed on the counter where Renee and the supervisor stand, both now uneasy in the wake of their own doubts. The supervisor hands back her ticket, his eyes flicking away, unwilling to meet her gaze for more than a second. Renee's lips are pressed together, the earlier edge in her voice replaced by a brittle uncertainty. The line behind Ava has grown, but no one dares speak. The air is thick with the residue of judgment and the uneasy realization that something important just happened. Ava takes her ticket, her movements measured and deliberate. She meets Renee's stare with a smile, not the polite, obligatory kind, but one sharpened by experience and resolve. It's the sort of smile that doesn't invite comfort. It warns of boundaries that will not be crossed again. Renee's composure falters, her eyes dropping to the counter, her hands suddenly busy with papers that don't need sorting. The supervisor mutters something about standard checks and steps away, his authority diminished by the quiet confrontation. Ava's voice is soft as she says, "Boarding soon." The words are simple, but their weight is unmistakable. She doesn't need to raise her voice or make a scene. The message is clear in her tone, her posture, the way she holds herself. The camera above catches the moment Renee's forced smile. Slipping, the supervisor's retreat, the subtle shift in the room's energy. A young woman further down the line watches with wide eyes, her own ticket clutched tightly, perhaps for the first time believing she could belong here too. Ava turns her stride steady as she heads towards security. The crowd parts for her, the tension dissolving into a quiet respect that lingers after she's gone. Renee stands frozen, her confidence crumbling, her role in the system exposed by nothing more than a smile and a refusal to be diminished. The training simulator's digital landscape fades to black, replaced by the low hum of fluorescent lights and the shuffle of flight manuals on plastic desks. Ava steps out of the cockpit, her heart still steady from a flawless landing. The instructor, a man with silver hair and a clipped accent, stands at the front, arms crossed. He glances at the monitor, then at Ava, lips curling in a faint, dismissive grin. "Stick to regional routes, Sinclair," he says, erasing her perfect score from the screen with a flick of his wrist. "You're good, but the majors are a different league." His words hang in the air, heavy with implication. Ava meets his gaze, refusing to look away, her hands tightening around the logbook in her bag. The other trainees, mostly men, exchange glances, some sympathetic, others indifferent. One or two smirking behind their hands, Ava finds her seat, the weight of the instructor's judgment settling on her shoulders. She opens her logbook, scanning. The re-dinked notes. Random inspection. Needs more assertiveness. Unusual background. Each comment is a reminder of the extra hurdles placed in her path, invisible to those who've never had to jump them. A young woman beside her offers a small, uncertain smile, sliding her a note that reads, "You flew better than any of them." Ava nods, gratitude flickering in her eyes, but the sting of dismissal lingers. The instructor continues, calling out another trainee's name, lavishing praise for a landing Ava knows was rougher than hers. "That's the kind of confidence we want in the cockpit," he says, voice booming. The room laughs, the moment passing, but Ava's resolve only sharpens. She closes her logbook, the spine creaking under her grip, and straightens in her chair. She won't let a few words define her. The simulator's darkness is gone, but the memory of that flawless landing, her landing remains vivid. She files the moment away. Another lesson in resilience, another reason to keep going when the world tries to write her out of the story. Ava slips into the crew lounge, the air thick with the scent of burnt coffee and the low murmur of tired voices. She finds an empty seat beside Marcus, a black pilot with a gentle demeanor and a badge that's seen better days. He leans against the vending machine, arms folded, eyes scanning the room before settling on Ava. Marcus offers a tired smile. "Badge? Got lost again at security," he says, his voice laced with irony. Second time this month, he lets out a short, bitter laugh, shaking his head. Ava raises an eyebrow, understanding more than she says. "They ever find them?" she asks, quietly. Marcus shrugs, glancing at the group of white pilots clustered by the window, their laughter loud and easy, untouched by the tension that clings. To the corners of the lounge, Ava sips her coffee, the bitterness matching the mood. A Latina flight attendant joins them, her uniform crisp, her eyes wary. "They called me the cleaning crew last week," she murmurs, voice barely above a whisper. Marcus nods, his expression softening. "It happens to all of us," he says, the words carrying the weight of shared experience. The three of them sit in a small island of understanding, surrounded by a sea of oblivious chatter. One of the white pilots glances over, offering a quick, forced grin before turning back to his friends. Ava watches as he slaps another pilot on. The back, their camaraderie effortless, their confidence unshaken. She glances at Marcus, who offers a knowing look. "You just have to be twice as good," he says, his tone resigned but not defeated. Ava's grip tightens on her cup, the warmth grounding her. She studies the faces around her, some open, some closed, all navigating the same storm in different ways. The lounge is a place of brief respite, but also a reminder. The barriers are real, and the fight is shared. Ava straightens her shoulders, determination settling in. She won't let the whispers define her. Not today. The hangar is cool and shadowed, the metallic scent of jet fuel lingering in the air. Ava walks between rows of parked aircraft, her footsteps echoing on the concrete. Captain Reynolds waits near the far wall, his silver hair catching the morning light, a presence both commanding and gentle. He holds a worn logbook, its cover cracked, pages thick with red ink and notes from years of flying. As Ava approaches, he offers the logbook with a quiet nod, his eyes steady on hers. "They'll try to clip your wings," Captain Reynolds says, his voice low and even. The weight of experience evident in every syllable. "Don't let them." Ava takes the logbook, feeling the indentations of old battles beneath her fingertips. She flips through the pages, pausing at entries marked with terse comments, random inspection, questioned credentials, unusual background. Each mark is a scar, a reminder of the obstacles faced not just by her, but by those who came before. Captain Reynolds gestures to a faded photograph tacked to the Walla cockpit crew from decades ago. All white faces, all grinning for the camera. "Things are changing," he says, his gaze lingering on the photo, but the noise never stops. "Fly above it." Ava breathes in, letting the words settle. The silence between them is full, a quiet understanding passing from mentor to student. She feels the mantle of those who fought for every flight hour, every promotion, every ounce of respect. Ava closes the logbook, the sound crisp and final. "Thank you," she says, her voice soft but resolute. Captain Reynolds smiles, pride and hope mingling in his eyes. The hangar door slides open, sunlight spilling across the floor, illuminating Ava's determined face as she steps forward. She walks away, logbook in hand, her stride steady, her spirit unyielding. The camera lingers on the photograph, then follows Ava's silhouette as it moves toward the runway, a symbol of quiet strength. Carrying the legacy of perseverance and the promise of change, the dim glow of the security room settles over Ava's features as she sits before a wall of monitors, each screen flickering with grainy images from the past several weeks. She leans forward, her eyes moving methodically from one feed to the next, searching for what others have missed or refused to see. On one monitor, a black pilot stands at a checkpoint, his ID scrutinized under a harsh fluorescent bulb. The security guard's hands move slowly, rifling through his bag, asking questions that linger longer than necessary. On another screen, a white pilot breezes through with a casual nod. No questions, no delay. His confidence unshaken by the process. Ava's pen moves across her notepad, circling timestamps, jotting down names, mapping the subtle choreography of exclusion. Her breath is steady, but her fists clench around the pen, knuckles whitening as the pattern becomes clear. The room is quiet, except for the low hum of the monitors and the soft scratch of pen on paper. It's not just one incident, it's a routine, a system that slows some and ushers others forward without a second glance. A janitor wheels his cart past the open door, pausing just long enough to glance at the screens. His eyes meet Ava's, and for a moment, there's a silent understanding between them. "They do it to the cleaners too," he mutters, voice barely above a whisper, before pushing his cart down the hall. The footage loops again. The same hesitations, the same unspoken questions. Black pilots are stopped, their dignity quietly tested. White pilots move on, their authority unquestioned. Ava leans back, her eyes never leaving the monitors. She knows these images are more than evidence. They are the truth, captured in black and white, undeniable and damning. Her resolve hardens as she prepares to document every detail, determined that these quiet injustices will not remain hidden. The screens flicker, the patterns impossible to ignore, and Ava's quiet strength fills the room. A beacon in the shadowed corners of the system. The locker door creaks open, revealing a small stack of envelopes, each sealed and unmarked. Ava's fingers tremble slightly as she pulls the first one free, the paper cool and crisp against her skin. Inside, a typed note unfolds, words heavy with quiet desperation. "They called me maid for 3 years." She reads it twice, the weight of the confession settling deep in her chest. More envelopes follow, post-its scrawled with hurried handwriting, printed letters, a USB drive tucked carefully between pages. Each piece is a fragment of a larger story, voices that have been silenced, stories that were never meant to be heard. Ava's desk becomes a sanctuary for these hidden truths, a mosaic of courage pieced together in the shadows. She glances around the crew room, the hum of conversation, a distant backdrop to the storm gathering in her mind. A Latina flight attendant catches her eye, offering a small, knowing nod before slipping away. Ava's breath catches this is no longer just her fight. It's a collective reckoning, a chorus of whispered defiance rising from the margins. USB drive hums softly in her palm, a digital trove of deleted complaints and erased voices. Ava plugs it into her laptop, the screen flooding with files, emails, reports, recordings, all pointing to a pattern of deliberate erasure. Hardens. These notes are more than paper and pixels. They are the foundation of a truth that cannot be ignored. Ava's phone buzzes softly. A message from Marcus. "We're with you." She smiles faintly, the solidarity a balm against the isolation. Around her, the crew room feels less like a cage and more like a battleground where change is possible. Janitor passes by, pausing to glance at the envelopes. His eyes meet Ava's. A silent nod exchanged, a quiet pact of understanding. The weight of the system's indifference presses down. But here, in this small act, hope flickers. Ava's fingers trace the edges of the notes again. Each one a story of endurance, a refusal to be erased. She knows the road ahead is long, but these fragments of truth are the first steps toward justice. The camera lingers on her determined face, the quiet fire in her eyes a beacon in the gathering storm. Ava sits at her desk, the glow of her laptop screen illuminating her focused expression. Rows and columns fill the display, each cell a record of a moment and inspection, a delay, a question asked one too many times. She scrolls through the data, her eyes narrowing as patterns emerge. Red highlights cluster around certain names, certain faces. The numbers tell a story that words alone cannot. 89% of so-called random checks target Black and Latino staff. Her supervisor stands behind her, arms crossed, trying to mask the unease in his voice. "We'll review the data," he says, but the words sound hollow, drifting into the charged air between them. Ava doesn't look up, her tone cold and precise. Review or erase. The challenge is clear, her patience worn thin by years of empty reassurances. The supervisor's gaze drops to the floor, his authority shrinking under the weight of evidence he can't refute. The printer beside her whirs to life, spitting out page after page of color-coded charts and incident logs. Each sheet is a verdict, a silent jury delivering its judgment on a system that pretends not to see. Ava gathers the papers, her hand steady, her resolve unshaken. She knows these numbers are more than statistics, they are proof. The foundation for a case that cannot be dismissed with platitudes or promises. In the hallway, a few colleagues glance at the growing stack of documents, their faces a mix of curiosity, discomfort, and quiet respect. One young attendant lingers, offering a hesitant nod before moving on. Ava meets her eyes for a moment. The silent exchange a reminder that every number in the spreadsheet is a person, a story, a life rerouted by prejudice. Ava files the last page. Her desk, now a fortress of facts. The supervisor retreats, the sound of his footsteps fading down the corridor. Ava exhales, her determination settling deeper. The numbers don't lie, and neither will she. The truth is out, and it's louder than any denial. The office is dim, the hum of fluorescent lights blending with the quiet rustle of papers. Ava's fingers tremble slightly as she holds a crumpled memo, its header stamped with the airline's logo. The words are stark, cold. Monitor employees from urban zip codes. She reads the list of neighborhoods, each one a coded exclusion, a map of suspicion. Her breath catches, the weight of systemic bias pressing down. She snaps a photo with her phone, hands steady, despite the storm inside. The next day, the memo is shredded, flames licking the edges of what was meant to be hidden. But Ava's message has already been sent forwarded to a reporter, the screen glowing with the irony of the airline's diversity in the skies. Slogan now, a bitter punchline on the break room. Whispers ripple like a current. A Latina attendant's voice is low but fierce. They think they can label us, control us. Ava nods, her eyes sharp. The memo is more than paper-rit's proof, a weapon against silence. Meanwhile, the airline's PR team scrambles, phones ringing off the hook. The spokesperson's practiced smile falters as the hashtag #LetHerFly trends worldwide. Outside, protesters gather, signs raised high, voices demanding justice. Ava watches from her apartment window, the city alive with change, her quiet strength, a beacon in the growing storm. The night hangs heavy as Ava slips into the shadowed parking lot. The distant hum of traffic, a faint reminder of the world moving on, indifferent. Her breath forms pale clouds in the cold air. Each exhale, a fragile defense against the dread pressing in. She clutches a folded note, its edges soft from anxious hands. The words inside are stark and simple. They're watching you. Ava's gaze lifts, catching the slow sweep of security cameras overhead, their red lights blinking in silent rhythm. Every shadow feels deeper, every movement sharper. She moves with purpose, gravel crunching beneath her shoes, the sound loud in the hush. The note burns in her palm as she reaches a trash can at the edge of the lot. She hesitates, heart pounding, then drops it in. A lighter's flame catches the paper, curling and blackening, orange glow flickering in her tear-bright eyes. "Can't lose this job," Ava whispers, the words barely more than breath, a plea swallowed by the darkness. The fire devours the warning, but not the fear. Her shoulders tense, resolve settling beneath the weight of risk and necessity. She knows what's at stake: her career, her future, the fragile progress she's made, yet she cannot turn away. From the truth, inside, the airport's steady rhythm continues. Oblivious to the quiet war unfolding just beyond its walls, Ava's phone vibrates a message from Marcus. "Stay strong, we're with you." She draws a shaky breath, the solidarity a small comfort against the loneliness of standing up. A janitor wheels his cart nearby, pausing to meet Ava's eyes. His look is heavy with understanding, a silent acknowledgement of the battles fought in silence. He nods, a gesture of respect, and moves on. Leaving Ava alone with the dying embers, she steps back, watching the last glow fade as the night reclaims the lot. Above, stars scatter across the sky, distant but steady. The path ahead is uncertain, but Ava's spirit refuses to break. In the darkness, she becomes her own beacon, holding on to hope and the promise of change. Ava stands at the gate, her uniform crisp, the weight of recent days pressing on her shoulders. She senses eyes on her, some curious, others skeptical. Nearby, a young woman scrolls through her phone, pausing to watch as Renee approaches Ava for yet another check. The woman's brow furrows, her thumb hovering over the record button. She presses it, capturing the exchange of his calm. Renee's clipped questions, the subtle tension that fills the air. Renee's tone is polite but pointed, her words laced with doubt. Ava answers each question with measured patience, her dignity unwavering. The line of passengers grows, some shifting uncomfortably, others whispering behind hands. The woman filming shakes her head, her frustration mounting. She posts the clip with a blunt caption, #LetHerFly. Is this pilot proving she's not a fraud? Within minutes, the tweet begins to spread. Notifications light up the woman's phone, likes, retweets, comments pouring in. The hashtag catches fire, voices joining in from across the country. This is why we need change. She's the youngest pilot and still has to prove herself. Enough is enough. Ava's phone buzzes in her pocket, the screen filling with messages, some supportive, others cruel. Renee glances around, her composure slipping as she realizes the moment has been captured and shared. A flight attendant beside her shifts uneasily. Avoiding Ava's gaze, the gate agent clears his throat. Suddenly aware of the scrutiny, the mood at the gate shifts. She knows the world is watching now, the truth no longer confined to whispered complaints or hidden memos. The video continues to spread, each view a small act of witness, each comment a call for justice. Ava's story is no longer just hers, it belongs to everyone who refuses to look away. The airline's PR team crowds into a cramped conference room, tension rising with every buzz of a phone and every ping of a new notification. Screens glow with the hashtag #LetHerFly, each update another reminder that the story has spun far. Beyond their control, a junior staffer taps her pen against a notepad, her eyes darting nervously between the glowing phones and the closed door, as if expecting a verdict to walk in at any moment. At the head of the table, the spokesperson her lines voiced tight and brittle. "This is an isolated incident," she whispers, the words sounding emptier each time she repeats them. Around her, colleagues exchange anxious glances, the weight of public scrutiny pressing down like a physical force. Someone scrolls through, a flood of messages from reporters, activists, and angry customers, the screen a blur of outrage and demands for answers. Sound the Broden, the sound of protest resides voices, chanting, signs, waving, the call for justice echoing through the glass. The PR team's phones buzz again, a relentless tide of questions and accusations. The spokesperson's fingers tremble as she types a response, the usual scripts failing to contain the growing storm. "We value diversity and inclusion," she writes, but the words feel thin, unable to stem the tide of accountability. A young intern leans over, voice barely above a whisper. "It's all over TikTok now." The room falls quiet, the reality sinking in. The diversity poster in the lobby, once a symbol of progress, now feels like a cruel joke, its smiling faces a stark contrast to the crisis unfolding. The spokesperson forces a smile, but her eyes flicker with doubt. The mask slipping as the pressure mounts. The polished facade that once shielded the airline from criticism is cracking, raw nerves exposed for all to see. The hashtag is no longer just a trend, it's a reckoning, a demand for truth that can't be ignored. The scene closes on the spokesperson's face, her composure faltering, the first cracks of accountability beginning to show as the world watches and waits for real change. Marcus sits beneath the bright lights of the local news studio, his uniform, immaculate, posture straight. But his eyes betrayed the fatigue of years spent navigating obstacles no training manual ever mentioned. The anchor's voice is gentle but direct. Is this about one pilot or something bigger? Marcus breathes in, steadying himself before the world. "It's not just Ava," he says, his tone measured, each word deliberate. "It's about every pilot who's had their badge questioned, their credentials doubted, their ambitions clipped because of how they look or where they come from." The camera lingers on his face, the gravity in his gaze unmistakable. This is systemic. It's in the policies, the glances, the quiet ways doors close. The broadcast cuts to a montage headlines scrolling, social media feeds alive with debate, Ava's photo flashing beneath the words "youngest pilot" versus "airline bias." In her small kitchen, Ava sits at the table, the television's blue glow painting her features in soft relief. She watches Marcus speak, remote in hand, the sound muted but the message clear. Her partner moves quietly, placing a reassuring hand on her shoulder, a silent promise that she's not alone in this fight. Outside, the city's hum is a distant comfort, the world moving on as if nothing has changed, yet everything feels different. Ava's gaze drifts to a framed photo of herself as a child, full of hope, a reminder of why she started this journey. The words from the screen echo in her mind. Systemic isn't just a word, it's the reality we live every day. Back in the newsroom, the anchor nods, the weight of Marcus's words settling over the audience. The camera fades to black, but the conversation continues online, in living rooms, in break rooms, in the halls of power. Ava's reflection in the window is blurred, but her resolve is sharper than ever. The silence that once protected the system is breaking, and for the first time, the world is listening. The corridor outside the executive suite is hushed, the usual clatter of footsteps and office chatter replaced by a heavy stillness. Ava stands just beyond the closed door, her heels clicking softly against the polished floor, her shadow stretching long beneath the dim lights. Inside, muffled voices rise and fall, urgent, tense, but always measured, careful not to spill into the open. The air is thick with the weight of decisions made behind barriers, with truths that everyone knows but no one dares to speak aloud. A white executive emerges, his face pale, jaw clenched, eyes fixed on the floor as he clutches a cell phone. To his ear, his words are barely audible. Delay the diversity report. He moves past Ava without acknowledgement, his presence shrinking as he disappears down the hall. Ava's breath is steady, her posture unyielding, but she feels the pressure of resistance pressing down like a physical force. She listens to the faint shuffle of papers, the low murmur of dissent, the sound of a system struggling to hold itself together, even as it begins to fracture. A janitor passes by, mop in hand, pausing to glance at Ava with a look that speaks volumes: empathy, understanding, and a quiet solidarity. His eyes linger for a moment, a silent witness to the battles fought in these halls, the slow unraveling of power behind closed doors. He nods, a small gesture of respect, before moving on, leaving Ava alone with her thoughts. The door to the executive suite remains sealed, a barrier between Ava and the change she's demanding. The hallway feels colder, the silence inside a testament to the resistance that still lies ahead. But with each step she takes, each echoed of her heels across the marble, the cracks in the system grow wider. Ava's fight is far from over, but the quiet shifts in the air signal that the old order is beginning to falter. Before confrontation, Ava pauses at the glass door, the airline's crest etched in gold, her shadow stretching across the polished floor. Inside, the faint tapping of pens and the shuffle of papers set a tense rhythm, a quiet storm gathering. Behind closed doors, the air is charged with the kind of electricity that signals change, even if no one dares to name it yet. Ava's grip tightens around the file in her hand-a-thick stack of documents, each page a record of what was endured and what was ignored. She pushes the door open, her entrance deliberate. The file lands on the boardroom table with a solid thud, sending a ripple through coffee cups and drawing every eye in the room. The executives fidget, their confidence shaken as they glance between the evidence and Ava's unwavering gaze. A junior board member clears her throat, the sound sharp in the stillness. A senior executive adjusts his tie, sweat beading at his brow, while another's pen taps out a nervous rhythm that betrays his uncertainty. Renee sits at the far end, her chair scraping against the floor as she shifts, her polished facade beginning to crack. For a moment, her practiced smile falters as she meets Ava's eyes. The room is heavy with unspoken accusations, the tension almost physical. Ava stands silent, her presence a challenge to the old order, reminder that the truth is no longer. Hidden in the margins, no one speaks. The silence presses down, a collective breath held at the edge of revelation. The airline's crest glints in the light, a symbol of the power that is now being questioned. The camera lingers on Ava's determined face, her calm composure, the calm before the storm. The boardroom door remains closed behind her, the threshold now a boundary between denial and reckoning. Outside, the hallway is still, the echoes of shifting power hanging in the air. Ava breathes deeply, ready to let the evidence speak for itself. The projector hums, casting a cold, pale light over the boardroom as the screen flickers to life. Grainy security footage fills the wall, each frame a silent accusation. Renee's smile is stretched thin as she questions black pilots, her voice in the footage polite, but her eyes hard. The footage shows small delays papers, shuffled IDs, scrutinized, moments stretched just long enough to sting. Complaint forms appear briefly in the footage, then are seen tossed into a shredder, the evidence of bias disappearing as quickly as it was created. Ava stands at the front, pointer in hand, circling clusters of red dots on a projected spreadsheet. Each dot is a story, a moment of exclusion, a pattern that refuses to be dismissed as coincidence. She doesn't raise her voice. The evidence is clear. These patterns are not accidents. Her tone is even, her gaze unwavering as it meets. Renee's across the table. The silence in the room is thick, every board member acutely aware of the weight pressing down on them. A vice president shifts in his seat, his hand rising to loosen a suddenly constricting tie. Sweat beads on his brow. A junior executive, face pale, quietly excuses himself, the truth too heavy to bear. Renee's reflection wavers on the screen, her lipstick now smudged, her hands trembling as she clenches a pen. The plastic cracks with a sharp snap, blue ink seeping out onto the polished mahogany table. A stain blooming in the stillness. The CEO clears his throat, the sound startling in the oppressive quiet. His voice low but firm, the words landing with the weight of inevitability. The camera lingers on the shattered pen, ink pooling like secrets finally exposed. Heavy curtains flutter as if the room itself is exhaling, the first breeze of change stirring the air. Ava's breath is steady as the projector's glow dims. The last image lingering. A boardroom no longer shielded by denial, its armor beginning to crack under the light of truth. The boardroom is dim, the only light coming from Ava's laptop screen, illuminating rows of data that fill the spreadsheet. Red highlights mark denied checks, clustered heavily around Black and Latino staff. Ava's finger taps the screen with quiet authority. Each click a heartbeat in the tense silence. The CEO's finger traces the troubling data, his face tightening under the weight of undeniable evidence. A junior executive shifts uncomfortably, his eyes darting away as the truth settles over the room like a heavy fog. Renee's hands tremble, her pen slipping from her fingers, blue ink staining the polished table. The spreading stain is a silent testament to the cracks forming in the system's facade. Ava's voice cuts through the room, calm but firm. These numbers don't lie. Patterns emerge where excuses once stood. The disparities are clear. A board member exhales sharply, fingers tightening around a coffee cup. Another adjusts her glasses, eyes narrowing as she studies the data. The room holds a heavy breath, the spreadsheet humming like a verdict. The CEO clears his throat, voice low but resolute. We must act on this. Transparency and accountability start here. Murmurs ripple through the gathered executives. A senior board member leans forward, voice barely above a whisper. How long has this been going on? Ava meets his gaze, steady and unflinching. Longer than anyone wants to admit, a young analyst clears her throat, pushing a fresh stack of reports toward the CEO, dense with data loan approvals, denials. Complaint logs all pointing to the same uncomfortable truth. The CEO's fingers drum a slow rhythm on the table, the weight of responsibility settling heavily. Gaze flickers to the door, her confidence replaced by fragile uncertainty. The atmosphere shifts, the old guard's grip loosening as undeniable evidence reshapes the narrative. Ava's quiet strength fills the space, a beacon of change amid the crumbling facade. The spreadsheet's red highlights pulse softly, a heartbeat of systemic failure. Ava's voice breaks the silence again. This is not just data, it's a call to action. Faces around the table show resignation and resolve. The boardroom transforms, no longer a place of denial, but a crucible for accountability. The numbers have spoken, and the fight for justice has found its voice. The boardroom is heavy with tension. The only sound, the faint drip of a leaking faucet somewhere in the distance. Renee sits rigid, her hands trembling as she grips a pen, the blue ink seeping slowly onto the polished mahogany table. The pen snaps suddenly, the sharp crack echoing like a gunshot in the still room. She stares at the spreading stained breath, shallow eyes wide with the weight of exposure. Ava's voice cuts through the charged air. You never asked? The CEO exhales, the sound loud in the quiet, a surrender disguised as a sigh. Around the table, board members exchange glances, the facade of denial crumbling with every passing second. Renee's shoulders slump the confident, mask slipping away, replaced by a fragile vulnerability. A portrait of the airline's founder hangs crooked on the wall, its once proud smile now a silent witness to the unraveling. Forming in the system's polished veneer, the room holds its breath. Caught between the past's weight and the promise of change, Renee's eyes dart to Ava. The pen's broken halves lie forgotten, a symbol of power, lost and truth revealed. The boardroom's heavy curtains flutter slightly, as if the room itself exhales. Are needed, the moment speaks volumes. The fight for justice is no longer whispered, is inked in blue, impossible to erase. The boardroom is heavy with the weight of truth, the air thick with the unspoken consequences of years of denial. The CEO leans forward, his voice low and almost a whisper, carrying the weight of a promise and the burden of failure. "We'll make it right," he says, eyes flicking to the evidence laid bare before him. His words are soft, but they echo loudly in the silence that follows. Ava leans in slightly, her pilot wings catching the light, a quiet symbol of resilience and change. "Right would have been believing me the first time," she replies, her voice steady, carrying the calm strength that has carried her through every challenge. Around the table, board members shift in their seats, some unable to meet Ava's gaze, others studying her with a newfound respect. The old guard's grip loosens, the first cracks appearing in the facade of resistance. Outside the boardroom, the distant sound of protesters chanting filters through the walls, a reminder that the fight for justice is far from over. The voices rise and fall, a chorus demanding accountability, their presence felt even behind closed doors. A janitor pauses in the hallway, mop in hand, watching the blinds tremble as if the building itself is breathing in the moment. His eyes meet Ava's through the glass, a silent nod passing between them, a quiet acknowledgement of the change. Unfolding, the CEO's gaze drops, the weight of accountability settling heavily on his shoulders. He glances at the documents spread before him, each page a record of what was ignored, each number a silent indictment. The promise to make things right is more than words, it is a call to action, a turning point in a long journey toward justice. Ava's presence fills the room, not with anger or accusation, but with the quiet power of truth. The camera lingers. On her calm face, the soft light highlighting the resolve in her eyes. The room exhales collectively, the first breath of change stirring the air. The promise has been spoken, but the work is only beginning. The boardroom door swings open, and Renee steps inside, her face pale and drawn, the confidence she once wore now stripped away. The HR director sits at the table, a neat stack of papers before her, fingers tapping a nervous rhythm that fills the quiet. She slides a letter across the polished surface. Renee's suspension notice. The paper's weight feels heavier than its thinness suggests, every word a verdict that cannot be appealed. Renee reaches out, her hand trembling as she takes the letter. The ink smudges slightly under her fingertips, a small, unintended mark that mirrors the stain now spreading across her career. Her badge, once pinned proudly to her chest, suddenly feels like a burden. It slips free, clattering onto the floor, with a hollow sound that echoes through the room. She stares at it for a moment, the symbol of her authority reduced to a forgotten trinket. Around the room, the silence is thick, broken only by the soft shuffle of papers and the distant hum of the city beyond the windows. Sunlight streams in, casting long shadows that seem to stretch and twist, echoing the unraveling of Renee's control. Her chair, once a throne of certainty, now feels cold and empty. A junior board member glances away, biting her lip, while a senior executive clears his throat, the sound sharp and final. Renee's eyes dart to the floor, avoiding the steady gaze of those around her. The weight of exposure presses down, and the room seems to hold its breath, waiting for someone to speak, but no one does. She stands, shoulders squared despite the weight, and exits the room with measured steps. The door closes behind her with a soft click, leaving behind a silence that speaks louder than any words. Outside, the city moves on, unaware of the quiet fall of a once powerful figure. The final shot lingers on the badge, lying forgotten on the floor, a symbol of authority. Stripped away, the light shifts, casting long shadows that stretch across the room, marking the end of an era and the beginning of reckoning. The boardroom is tense, the air thick with unspoken words and the weight of recent revelations. The CEO slides a crisp, enveloped across the table, toward Ava, his expression guarded but sincere. "We'd like to offer you a seat on the new Diversity Council," he says, voice low but firm. Ava's fingers brush the paper, hesitation flickering in her eyes. She looks up, meeting the CEO's gaze with quiet resolve. "I'll fly first," she replies softly. "You fix this." The room shifts, the offer feeling less like a reward and more like a placation. Around her, the PR team's phones buzz incessantly. The hashtag let her fly is trending worldwide. Renee's abandoned chair looms in the background, a silent reminder of the cost of change. The CEO's words hang in the air, but Ava's focus is elsewhere on the faces of those who will follow. The battle's yet to be fought. The camera lingers on Ava's steady hands. the envelope a fragile symbol of progress and compromise. Outside, the city pulses with life, unaware of the quiet revolution unfolding within these walls. Ava's smile is small but fierce, a promise that the fight is far from over. The room feels heavy, the weight of history pressing down on every shoulder. Ava's voice breaks the quiet, soft but unwavering. This isn't about titles or seats, it's about real change. Her words ripple through the room, a quiet challenge to those who would settle for less. The CEO nods slowly, the first cracks of understanding appearing in his eyes. Ava's gaze sweeps the room, landing on Renee's empty chair once more. The absence is a stark reminder of the cost of progress. The sacrifices made in silence. She folds her hands, the envelope now a symbol of both hope and the long road ahead. The PR team's murmurs fade into the background as Ava stands, her resolve clear. "I'll lead by example," she says, voice steady. The room exhales collectively, the first breath of a new era. The corridor is dimly lit, the polished floor reflecting the sharp click of Ava's heels as she moves with quiet authority. The air is thick with the kind of tension that settles after a storm, heavy, charged, and full of unspoken reckonings. Executives scatter at her approach, their faces pale, their steps hurried and uncertain. Ava's presence fills the space, each stride a silent declaration that the old order has shifted. She doesn't need to speak. Her composure and purpose are enough to clear a path. Renee slips into a nearby restroom, the door closing softly behind her. She leans against the cool tile wall, scrubbing her hands raw at the sink, the tremor in her fingers betraying the collapse of her once unshakable confidence. Her eyes are rimmed red, her breath shallow. The mirror reflects a woman unraveling, the mask of authority slipping away to reveal regret and fear. Outside, the muffled sounds of the airport continue, voices, rolling bags, distant announcements, different. To the personal reckoning unfolding within these walls, Ava's silhouette passes the frosted restroom window, steady and unbroken. Pilots in the hallway nod respectfully as she passes, their faces a mix of admiration and relief. The intercom comes to life, the voice composed and clear. "Flight 27, Captain Sinclair, cleared for takeoff." The words linger, a quiet triumph that resonates far beyond the terminal, echoing in the hearts of those who have watched, waited, and hoped for this shift. Renee's muffled sobs are a poignant counterpoint to Ava's steady ascent. The power in the building has changed hands, not with shouts or spectacle, but with the quiet strength of dignity reclaimed and justice served. Ava moves forward, her resolve unshaken, the sound of her heels marking the beginning of a new era. The hallway, once a place of intimidation and exclusion, now feels open, the shadows retreating in the wake of her passing. Ava sits at her kitchen table long after midnight, the only light coming from a desk lamp that casts soft shadows across, stacks of documents, and a battered red pen. Her toddler's crayon, drawing a plane with brown-skinned pilots, hangs nearby, a quiet reminder of what's at stake. The house is silent, except for the occasional rustle of paper, as she reviews every line, every clause, determined to turn promises into protection for those who will come after her. She reads through the draft anti-bias guidelines, crossing out vague language and replacing it with clear, enforceable mandates. Recommended becomes required. Should is replaced with must. Each change is deliberate, a shield forged from lived experience and hard-won wisdom. Her partner sits across from her, reading quietly, offering a mug of tea and a gentle squeeze of her hand when fatigue threatens to dull her focus. Resolve only sharpens, her pen moving with purpose. She pauses to reread a section on reporting discrimination, remembering every moment she was doubted, every time a complaint was buried or dismissed. She adds a new line. Anonymous reports will be investigated with the same urgency as named ones. The words settle on the page, heavy with meaning. She glances at her child's drawing, the innocence and hope in those bright colors fueling her. Determination to ensure the next generation won't have to fight the same battles. Ava stacks the finished pages, the pile thicker and more complete than it was hours before. She feels the exhaustion in her bones, but also a deep sense of accomplishment. These aren't just policies, they're promises, safeguards, and blueprints for a fairer future. She leans back, her partner's smile a quiet encouragement, and allows herself a moment of pride. As dawn approaches, Ava gathers the documents, ready to present them to the board. The fight for justice continues, not just in public confrontations, but in these quiet, persistent hours. The new rules are written, and with them, a new legacy begins, one built on clarity, courage, and the unwavering belief that change is possible. The cockpit is bathed in the soft glow of dawn, the horizon painted with streaks of gold and pink. Ava Sinclair sits in the captain's seat, her hands steady on the controls, eyes focused, yet calm. The hum of the engines is a familiar comfort, a steady rhythm that matches the beat of her heart. Beside her, a young trainee, 19 and wide-eyed, watches with awe, the future reflected in his eager gaze. Every dial, every switch feels like both a memory and a promise of Ava's journey. Hard won and hard fought, now a living legacy for the next generation. Outside, the airline's headquarters shrank beneath the rising sun, a symbol of the old guard fading into the past. The building that once seemed imposing now appears small and distant, its power diminished by the new day. Ava's voice crackles over the intercom, clear and confident. "This is your captain speaking. Flight 27, cleared for takeoff." The cabin fills with a ripple of applause, passengers' faces lighting up with surprise and hope. Even the most seasoned travelers sense the change in the air, the quiet pride that fills the plane as it begins to move. In a modest apartment miles away, Renee Halverson stares at a rejection email, the glow of the screen harsh against her weary face. Her fingers tremble as she closes the laptop, the finality settling in. The authority she once carried is gone, replaced by a hollow silence that echoes through the room. The world she tried to control has moved on, her influence now a distant memory dot back in the sky. Ava's smile is quiet but fierce, her hands guiding the plane with unwavering resolve. The trainee beside her grins, the weight of history lifting with every mile they climb. The sky, vast and open, stretches before them, a canvas for new beginnings and unspoken promises. The camera lingers on Ava's face, the soft light highlighting the strength in her eyes. The journey is far from over, but this flight marks a turning point, a moment where dignity and justice take flight, soaring higher than ever before. Renee sits alone by the window of a quiet cafe, the steam from her untouched coffee curling into the cool morning air. Her fingers tremble slightly as she scrolls through headlines on her phone, each one a reminder of Ava's rise and the public reckoning she faces. Outside, passers-by avoid her gaze, their steps quickening, conversations hushed as if her presence unsettles the familiar rhythm of the city. Her authority, once unquestioned, has dissolved into a heavy silence that follows her like a shadow. The badge she wore with pride now feels like a weight pulling her down, a symbol of a power that has slipped through her fingers. She stares out the window, watching the world move on without her. The hum of life, a stark contrast to the stillness that is settled within. Inside the cafe, the barista offers a tentative smile, a small act of kindness that feels foreign and fragile. Renee nods in acknowledgement but remains distant, her thoughts a tangle of regret and isolation. The news stories play on her phone, each one a testament to the change she resisted, the system she upheld now turning against her. Her name trends for all the wrong reasons, and every notification is a reminder of the consequences of choices made and voices ignored. Meanwhile, Ava stands on a stage at a graduation ceremony, surrounded by a new generation of pilots who look like hare faces bright with hope and determination. The applause is thunderous, a wordless celebration of progress and possibility. Ava's hands move steadily as she pins wings on the new pilots, each gesture a promise kept, a barrier broken. The energy in the room is electric, the sense of history shifting palpable in every handshake and every smile. Backstage, Captain Reynolds embraces Ava, pride and relief mingling in his eyes. Their shared history, the battles fought and won, is a silent thread binding them. The moment is heavy with meaning, a quiet victory that speaks louder than any speech. The camera lingers on Ava's face, calm and resolute, before shifting to Renee's isolated figure in the cafe. The contrast is stark, a tale of downfall and rise, of power lost and dignity reclaimed. The story continues, carried forward by those who refuse to be silenced. Renee sits alone by the window of a quiet cafe, the steam from her untouched coffee curling into the cool morning air. Her fingers tremble slightly as she scrolls through headlines on her phone, each one a reminder of Ava's rise and the public reckoning she faces. Outside, passers-by avoid her gaze, their steps quickening, conversations hushed as if her presence unsettles the familiar rhythm of the city. Her authority, once unquestioned, has dissolved into a heavy silence that follows her like a shadow. The badge she wore with pride now feels like a weight pulling her down, a symbol of a power that has slipped through her fingers. She stares out the window, watching the world move on without her. The hum of life, a stark contrast to the stillness that is settled within. Inside the cafe, the barista offers a tentative smile, a small act of kindness that feels foreign and fragile. Renee nods in acknowledgement but remains distant, her thoughts a tangle of regret and isolation. The news stories play on her phone, each one a testament to the change she resisted, the system she upheld now turning against her. Her name trends for all the wrong reasons, and every notification is a reminder of the consequences of choices made and voices ignored. Meanwhile, Ava stands on a stage at a graduation ceremony, surrounded by a new generation of pilots who look like hairfaces, bright with hope and determination. The applause is thunderous, a wordless celebration of progress and possibility. Ava's hands move steadily as she pins wings on the new pilots, each gesture a promise kept, a barrier broken. The energy in the room is electric, the sense of history shifting palpable in every handshake and every smile. Backstage, Captain Reynolds embraces Ava, pride and relief mingling in his eyes. Their shared history, the battles fought and won, is a silent thread binding them. The moment is heavy with meaning, a quiet victory that speaks louder than any speech. The camera lingers on Ava's face, calm and resolute, before shifting to Renee's isolated figure in the cafe. The contrast is stark, a tale of downfall and rise, of power lost and dignity reclaimed. The story continues, carried forward by those who refuse to be silenced. Backstage, the noise of celebration fades into a softer, more intimate space. Ava stands near the curtain, her uniform immaculate, her posture relaxed for the first time in days. Captain Reynolds approaches, his steps unhurried, his silver hair catching the glow of the overhead lights. He pauses, studying Ava with a look that holds both pride and memory. Without a word, he opens his arms, and Ava steps into his embrace. The hug is firm, steady, and full of unspoken meaning, a transfer of strength from one generation to the next. "You did what we dreamed," Captain Reynolds murmurs, his voice rough with emotion. "You made it real for all of us." Ava closes her eyes for a moment, letting the weight of his words settle in her chest. She feels the years of struggle, the moments of doubt, the quiet victories that built this path. Their bond is not forged in grand gestures, but in every lesson shared, every quiet encouragement. Every time he stood by her when others would not, they pull apart, and Reynolds places a hand on her shoulder, his grip reassuring. "Remember, it's not just about flying," he says softly. "It's about making sure the door stays open behind you." Ava nods, her resolve deepening. She glances at the stage where the new pilots gather, their excitement palpable. The future is no longer a distant hope, it's here, embodied in every face that looks to her for guidance. Ava's partner appears, offering a proud smile and a gentle squeeze of her hand. The three stand together, a tableau of support, resilience, and love. The applause from the auditorium filters through the curtain, a distant but steady reminder of the world waiting outside. Captain Reynolds gives Ava one last nod, his eyes shining. "Go show them how high you can fly," he says, and slips quietly back into the crowd. Ava stands a little taller, the weight of history now a mantle she wears with pride. The embrace lingers not just in memory, but in every step she takes forward, carrying wisdom, hope, and the promise of a sky wide enough for all. Late at night, Ava sits at her kitchen table, the soft glow of a desk lamp spilling across stacks of draft policies and a battered red pen. The world outside is quiet, but inside, her mind is alive with the details of reform. Her partner sits across from her, reading quietly, offering a gentle smile and a mug of tea whenever Ava's shoulders slump with fatigue. The only sounds are the scratch of pen on paper and the occasional rustle of pages as Ava marks another clause for revision. She reviews each line of the anti-bias guidelines, her focus unwavering. Where the language is vague, she makes it precise. Recommended becomes mandatory. Should is replaced with must. Every change is deliberate, rooted in her own lived experience and in the stories she's gathered from those who came before her. She pauses at a section on reporting discrimination, recalling every moment she was doubted, every complaint that was quietly dismissed. She writes a new line in bold. Anonymous reports will be investigated with the same urgency as named ones. The words settle on the page, a shield for those who will come after her. Her toddler's crayon drawing, a plane with brown-skinned pilots, hangs nearby, a gentle reminder of the stakes. Ava glances at it, feeling both the weight of responsibility and the hope of a future where such drawings are not dreams but reality. Her partner reaches over, squeezing her hand, a silent promise that she is not alone in this fight. As dawn creeps through the window, Ava stacks the finished pages, her exhaustion tempered by a deep sense of accomplishment. These aren't just policies, they're promises, safeguards, and blueprints for a fairer future. She leans back, allowing herself a moment of quiet pride, knowing that real change is built in these patient private hours. The new rules are ready, and with them, a new legacy begins, one forged by clarity, courage, and the unwavering belief that justice is not just possible, but necessary. Ava sits at her kitchen table, the soft glow of a desk lamp casting warm light over a stack of letters and a small pile of opened envelopes. Her fingers tremble slightly as she unfolds a carefully written note, the handwriting delicate and hopeful. The words inside are simple but powerful. I want to fly like you. The letter is from a young girl, her dreams soaring beyond the confines of her small world, inspired by Ava's quiet strength and determination. The room is still, except for the faint rustle of paper and the distant hum of the city at night. Ava's eyes mist over the weight of the letter settling deep in her chest. She reads the words again, imagining the child's bright eyes and boundless hope. The letter is a reminder of why she fights not just for herself, but for every young person who dares to dream beyond the limits imposed by society. Her partner sits nearby, offering a gentle smile and a reassuring squeeze of her hand. The quiet support is a balm against the exhaustion that lingers after years of struggle. Ava folds the letter carefully, placing it beside the crayon drawing taped to the wall, a plane with pilots of every shade, wings spread wide against a bright blue sky. She leans back, letting her gaze drift to the stars scattered across the night sky outside the window. The city is quiet, but inside Ava's heart, hope stirs with new energy. Her internal monologue carries the weight of generations. Change doesn't roar. Sometimes it just flies higher. The scene fades with the soft glow of the lamp, beacon of hope and the promise of a future where the sky is wide enough for all. The boardroom feels different now, brighter, more open. The air no longer thick with suspicion, but alive with possibility. Sunlight pours through wide windows, illuminating a new leadership council gathered around the polished table. Faces of every shade and background fill the seats, their voices rising in lively debate and thoughtful agreement. At the head of the table, Ava sits with quiet confidence, her presence a living testament to the change she helped create. The old guard is gone. Their absence felt in the way conversation flows freely, ideas challenged and welcomed without fear. A young South Asian executive proposes a new mentorship program for underrepresented staff. Her words met with nods and genuine engagement. Across the table, a Latino pilot shares his experience with recruitment barriers, prompting immediate discussion on actionable solutions. No one is dismissed or overlooked. Every voice matters. Every story shapes the agenda. Ava's portrait hangs on the wall, not as a token, but as a symbol of transformation. The image is a reminder of battles fought and won, the cost of progress, and the promise that the system will never again be closed to those who deserve a seat. She listens more than she speaks, her leadership marked by humility and resolve. When she does offer her perspective, the room quiet, the respect for her journey evident in every face. Outside, the airline's lobby buzzes with new energy. The diversity poster has been replaced by a mural of real employees, pilots, attendants, mechanics, each one a testament to the company's renewed commitment. The boardroom, once a fortress of exclusion, is now a laboratory for innovation and justice. As the meeting adjourns, council members linger, exchanging ideas and encouragement. Ava gathers her notes, her heart full. The system, once rigid and unyielding, is finally opening. The legacy she helped build is not just policy, it's people, empowered and united. Ready to carry the mission forward, the airline's homepage glows softly on Ava's laptop screen, a digital tribute to her journey and the quiet revolution she embodies. Images of Ava in her crisp uniform, interviews where her calm voice recounts moments of resilience, and stories from colleagues fill the page. Each photo and word is a testament to the change she has sparked, a public commitment that dignity and justice are now part of the company's identity. Passengers scrolling through the site pause, some inspired, others reflective. In break rooms and offices, staff members glance at the homepage. The story, a shared narrative that bridges divides and invites conversation. Ava's quiet smile greets them from the screen, a symbol of strength and hope woven into the fabric of the airline's new culture. The website is more than a platform. It stands as a beacon of accountability. Testimonials from colleagues appear alongside timelines of reform, each milestone marking the airline's journey from denial to transformation. New policies are outlined in clear, accessible language, promising transparency and fairness for all. The digital space hums with the energy of progress, a living archive of battles fought and victories won. Ava sits nearby, her gaze steady as she watches the world engage with her story. Her partner leans in, offering a gentle smile and a reassuring touch, grounding her in the moment. The room is filled with the soft glow of the screen and the quiet promise of change. Ava's internal voice is steady. This is not the end, but a new beginning. Her story, once a private struggle, now lives in the open, inspiring others to believe that justice is possible and that dignity can become the standard, not the exception. The camera lingers on Ava's face, calm and resolute. Before fading to the next chapter of the journey, a legacy not just written in policy, but in every life touched by her courage, the cockpit window frames a sky brushed with soft hues of dawn, clouds drifting lazily beneath the rising sun. Ava Sinclair sits poised, hands steady on the controls, her eyes calm but filled with quiet strength. The hum of the engines is a steady heartbeat, a rhythm that matches the resolve beating. Within her chest, beside her, a young trainee watches with wide eyes, the future reflected in his eager gaze. This flight is more than a journey. It is a symbol of change, a testament to battles fought and won. Below, the airline's headquarters shrank beneath. The morning light, a fading monument to an old order giving way to new possibilities. The building's glass facade reflects the sky, fractured by the dawn's first rays. Mirroring the transformation unfolding within, Ava's voice comes over the intercom, clear and steady. "This is your captain speaking. Flight 27 cleared." For takeoff, the cabin fills with a ripple of applause, passengers' faces lighting with surprise and hope. The atmosphere is charged with a sense of progress, a quiet celebration of dignity reclaimed miles away. Renee Halverson sits alone in a dimly lit room, the glow of a rejection email casting shadows across her weary face. Her fingers tremble. As she closes the laptop, the finality settling in like a heavy fog. The authority she once wielded is gone, replaced by a hollow silence that echoes through the empty space. The world she tried to control has moved on, her influence now a distant memory back in the sky. Ava's smile is small but fierce, her hands guiding the plane with unwavering confidence. The trainee beside her grins, the weight of history lifting. With every mile they climb, the camera lingers on Ava's face, the soft light highlighting the strength in her eyes. This flight marks a turning point, a moment where justice and dignity take flight, soaring higher than ever before.